Today's heater segment is the installation of the actual unit underneath the passenger seat, and hopefully I'll get everything connected underneath as well. Wiring harness should be part of that. Hope you find something useful in this. If you're not building a van or putting in a heater, hopefully you just find it entertaining to watch. Thanks for joining. Let's get on with it.
Well, I can see all of that underneath. Inch and an eighth. I used a 1/4 inch drill bit to go and drill out the 4 bolting holes and the fuel hole. Some rust inhibiting primer. I'm taking my measuring tape and I'm fishing it through this conduit because the wires aren't actually just laying underneath it, they're going through it. And rather than taking that all out and then trying to put the wires, I'll just feed the wires through it. So I got a piece of wire. I'm putting on the measuring tape here. I'm just going to pull this wire through so I can connect it to all the heater wires. And pull them back. There. Cut that tie. Open that up. Some sand in my eyes. I don't think I need much wire there. Need to be able to separate it some. Stick it in there. This needs to close. Goes in between the wires on top of these. Crimp the one part over top of the wire. Crimp the back part on top of the sheathing, the insulation. Get a good squeeze. Just have to go in so that they're flat in the same direction. They're in line. You see this way there's a blade connector that goes in between here, and they both have to be lined up the same way, not this way but this way. Push them in so you can see they're across that way. Why'd you turn off? So you can see the connectors are across sideways. They're snapped in. So now it's just a matter of pushing these little plugs in, I guess. There. That's in. Now this piece folds over, comes in between the wires and outside, and there's some clips on the outside that catches on. So I got the holder for the dosing pump there. I have the power for the dosing pump coming through the sock. I have the fuel line that I added to the fuel tank sitting right up here for now. I'll trim that or route it. So I have this rigid line going to the dosing pump already, and I'm just feeding this through here like this. I'm going to put it in place like so, connect the power to it, and then I'll run this line over underneath the passenger seat. Let's get the wire power connected to this. That's clipped in. Oh. Attach that wire somewhere in a minute. I'll leave my camera. I think you're pointing at it. All the instructions say that this has got to be at least a 15-degree angle. It's closer to probably a 30, maybe a 35. Get this pump seated in here as far as possible. This tie wrap around here. Let's tighten this up. There. Fuel line connected. Power to the dosing pump. This line now. We just need to fish over to the other side. Have you ever tried to untangle your slinky? Washer and a nut.
bolts.
Bottom of the heater coming out through the floor here. So we have fresh air hose, and it's just curled up over top of this one support. It's coming down behind the mud flap. Let's give an angle on this camera here to see if we can see that. You can see it poking out here. It's just up over top of this beam, the pipe. Oh, get the camera back to where it was. So that's a fresh air intake for the combustion. Is the fuel line. A little bit of a wire loom I managed to pull across. It actually went across almost all the way, but most importantly, it's up above the heat shield. That's there. So that's fuel lines connected to the bottom. So here we got the exhaust port. So we have some more metal tubing. We'll connect that up. Now, I've seen other videos and they're talking about this muffler and a direction on it. This one doesn't have any direction. And if you look at either end, it looks like symmetrical construction inside there. So, put that bolt, that washer. I can get that nut out of that hand. So, what was one is now two. So this muffler clamp, exhaust clamp, it's got a Torx bit screw in it, a T30. So hopefully I can just use the universal on my drill here to get this in.
Another one here. Like that on. That's on there. Where's the pedal? There. Here's the exhaust. We're running up this way. We're gonna run all the way up to here. Exhaust, fuel line, fresh air. Fresh air's over here. Comes out behind the mud flap. Right here. Fuel line. Crosses. Goes up above the heat shield. Coming along here. Goes over drive shaft on the other side. Cross in front of the battery. And then you see it come down. Goes underneath that beam. And then over to the dosing pump. There's the wire powering the dosing pump. Looking at it there, I should like screw it up in a couple places, shouldn't I? Tie wrap it anyways. Of the two wires that are coming from the heater, there's this one cable, well, not wires, but cable bundles. There's this cable bundle that's got the power. And there's two power leads here. There's a heavy one that, you know, powers the glow plugs and stuff. And then there's this power for the control. And there's a ground wire. This heavy brown one. This here one, to the best of my knowledge, isn't required for what we're doing, or what I'm doing anyways. It's just a basic install of the Espar D2 heater with an easy timer control. So this power wire and this one are both connected to my fuse block separately, two different fuses, and then this is connected to a ground on my fuse block. So it's these three wires I have connected to one fuse here, and I believe this is a 20 amp fuse, and it's a 5 amp fuse for the control. And then the ground is just up on the common grounds up top. So now that my heater's been working for a while, I'm actually putting some time into going and getting it wired in permanently today. I will also need to run the cable for my actual control. Okay, so I got the tape off the connections that I have here that I've tested well. So I'll make this a little more permanent of an install today. So for the easy start timer that I have, this little one here, the minimum connections needed are the red from the heater, and this is the wire going to the controller. So red to red, brown to brown, and this blue-white wire to a blue-white wire. So the rest of the ones from the controller I don't need to use in this situation. Some of it's for like hydronic heaters or whatever, or whether the altitude kit plugs in here, I don't know. But these aren't required for straight up install of the DS2 Airtronic and the Easy Start. So we got these 3 wires. The only other thing that you have to do to get it to work is these 2 wires here. There's a brown white and a gray red. Those ones you have to connect together. And once those 2 are connected together and these 3 are on, and you have your power and ground wires connected to power supplies, it's going to start working. That's all that's needed. So the rest of the ones from this bundle aren't needed. Neither is this one, unless you have these 2 combined, and then this one are hooked up to my remote temperature sensor. And like I say, that's this little piece that's screwed up in my cabinets. I'm going to move it to the other side, but that's where it is right now. So that's just separate lead. Anyway, so not too many connections, and I'm not going to use the factory connectors that are there. I just don't want to assemble them and stuff, and I think just some little clip-on connectors for these couple of wires. These ones actually have these other connectors on, and I think those came with the temperature sensor wire. So I'll just use those. Those ones are fine. I'll just wrap those with some tape to make sure that they don't short out on any. And these ones, I'm going to replace these tips with something a little more generic. Just going to use these covered spade connectors for these 3 wires. So I'm going to disconnect these wires, see if they fish up by my fridge, and if I can get it to the top, that'll be a lot easier than trying to extend these wires. And I'll get it hooked up. But for the wiring, that's all that's needed. I'll replace these connectors here. It's just some crimp-on connectors, and we'll see how it goes.